We have made it to week 5, the final week of the Covered in Grace Bible Study Girl Group. So let's get right into the message. So we were tasked with reading Genesis chapter 16. I've got my handy dandy notes right here. And I'm going to read chapter 16 of Genesis, and then we will give a breakdown of what that chapter was about, and then we'll go over our key scripture as well as the application question. All right, so bear with me. Chapter 16. Now Sarah, Abram's wife, had borne him no children, but she had an Egyptian slave named Hagar. So she said to Abram, "The Lord has kept me from having children. Go sleep with my slave. Perhaps I can build a family through her." Abram agreed to what Sarah said. So after Abram had been living in Canaan 10 years, Sarah, his wife, took her Egyptian slave Hagar and gave her to her husband to be his wife. He slept with Hagar and she conceived. When she knew she was pregnant, she began to despise her mistress. Then Sarah said to Abram, "You are responsible for the wrong I am suffering. I put my slave in your arms, and now that she knows she is pregnant, she despises me. May the Lord judge between you and me." "Your slave is in your hands," Abram said. "Do with her whatever you think best." Then Sarah mistreated Hagar, so she fled from her. The angel of the Lord found Hagar near a spring in the desert. It was the spring that is beside the road to Shur. And he said, "Hagar, slave of Sarah, where have you come from, and where are you going?" "I'm running away from my mistress, Sarah," she answered. Then the angel of the Lord told her, "Go back to your mistress and submit to her." The angel added, "I will increase your descendants so much that they will be too numerous to count." The angel of the Lord also said to her, "You are now pregnant, and you will give birth to a son. You shall name him Ishmael. For the Lord has heard of your misery. He will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and he will live in hostility toward all his brothers." She gave this name to the Lord who spoke to her. "You are the God who sees me." For she said, "I have now seen the one who sees me." That is why the well was called Beer Lahai Ro. It is still there between Kadesh and Bered. So Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram gave the name Ishmael to the son she had born. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore him Ishmael. So that was chapter 16. All right, so synopsis of that chapter. Sarah, Abram's wife, had an Egyptian servant named Hagar. Sarah was unable to have children, so she told Abram to take Hagar and attempt to have children with her. Hagar successfully conceived a child, and from that time on, she looked down on her with contempt. Sarah dealt harshly with Hagar per what Abram said, which led her to run away from Abram's house. The angel of the Lord found Hagar by a spring of water in the wilderness and asked her where she was going. Hagar was pregnant with a son called Ishmael, which means God hears. And in verse 13, where she's saying, "You are a God who sees me. Truly here I have seen him who looks after me." And then essentially Abram was 86 when he had that son. So the key scripture that I want to go over with you guys is verse 13 of that chapter. "So she called the name of the Lord who spoke to her. You are a God of seeing. For she said, truly here I have seen him who looks after me." So just diving into that chapter, I asked the group, in what ways do you feel unseen or overlooked? And so I know a lot of times we can be going through the hustle and bustle of life, and it feels like you're going unnoticed. I myself feel like even in my own talents, people are asleep on me. But it's not even for other people to see my worth as long as I know God sees my worth, which he does, and that's what matters. So that's something that I am practicing to tell myself is, even if quote unquote people are asleep on me, that doesn't matter. God knows my worth and he knows my talent, and it's normal and human to feel that way. And that's why I love how God created us to not be robots but have free will, because those are normal feelings. But ultimately, you have your sense of security in him. All right, so then next, I just asked everyone, how does it feel to know God sees you? And do you believe God sees you? And just a quick note, rather than trusting God's promise, Sarah decided to take matters into her own hands and find an additional wife for her husband and solve problems on her own, which led me to think on how many times we try to take situations into our own hands and fix the problem, and it ends up being way worse. And so that was the last question that I asked the group was, it is always, or not really a question, but more of like a statement. It's better to trust God patiently than take matters into our own hands in an attempt to solve things more quickly. And I can just think of so many times I try to do things myself when it's like, girl, relax. Don't even do it because God has something better. And that was the end, guys. I'm so glad we were able to get through those 5 weeks of the Covered in Grace Bible Study Grow Group. We are continuing in this season with the group by just meeting once a month. But rather than sharing those with you all, I think I might just show the Zoom links of what we go over. That way, you guys can still kind of keep up with that in the event that you still want to obviously follow along with what the group is doing. So, again, thank you guys for listening, watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.